It is days like these that make me appreciate having a nice indoor hobby. This is our 4th day of rain, and what you're looking at is my view straight out my window. And I'm gonna move the one area of water closest to us between the 2 picnic tables. That is a site. Of course, nobody wants it because it's so wet. On the other side is actually the road. And then if you look over to the left, all that is a big lake where the tent parking is, and then the walk back to that red sign where you walk to the beach. And Hub went to the beach today, like 15 minutes ago. It was sunny, and now it's pouring down rain. And he went on the right side and said he tried to come back on the left to get to over to that sign, and it was so deep he was afraid it would be too deep. And he is wearing full height rubber like hunting boots that go above, full calf coverage. And it is just so wet here right now. It's amazing, and it makes me appreciate that I have a good indoor activity. Actually, I have 2 of them: playing my online game called ESO and crafting. Hey, I am back. This is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things, and this is part 2 of Stamp With Me, where I stamped up 3 different focals and then did some basic to casual layouts in the end. So I would say part 2 is more create with me than stamp with me, because so far I haven't seen a need to do any stamping. So I want to talk about what I've been working on. I've cut a bunch of materials and researched some matching and coordinating die sets. So the first thing I want to talk about is coloring. And it's such a simple coloring job that I did that I didn't feel it was even necessary to film it. So the very small flowers focal is this one right here, and I have picked a background. It is a very unusual background, but I am trying to stretch myself here, as well as give you guys some ideas on how to create things that are just not quite the norm. I've seen the Pinterest pins, that what people have been creating with this stamp set and the dies, and so I'm trying really hard to be a little different. All right, so for coloring of these little flowers, which is 3 layers, 3 different colors, and I hope you can see those. I had to start. One of the things with Stampin' Up, I will say, is I wish for lighter colors. I would like a 10-pack of the lightest colors to coordinate at the very light end of the spectrum, because the colors that I picked were Seaside Spray Light and Dark, and I just couldn't get it light enough, and I did not want it all to be white, so I used B0000, very pale, very light, so that I could get just a hint of color in these flowers before I went around the edges. And this is being really nitpicky. I believe that you could definitely just use light sea spray and a tiny bit of dark and do some blending, and you could blend out the color. Now this is Whisper White. Again, I have not tested the basic white and how it might work, and what I'm doing here is just touching the edges where I see the dark colors. I want it to be more soft and blendy than lines. So that's all I did for coloring, very simple. And now I'm going to share with you my backdrop, and it is unusual, so brace yourself. First I'm going to show you, the name is Flower and Field Designer Series Paper. This is a free celebration item with a $50 product purchase, and I really like how this looks offset. And I do think it's a really big contrast. So the next thing I did that I have not assembled yet is I created some silver strips, because I already showed you the silver, white, and misty moonlight twine that I'm getting really low on. So these projects might use it up. And so this is something like what I will be doing for this one. I will have a white mat, a thin one. I will have this silver foil. I am going to dry emboss this floral background cardstock, and that will finish this project off. So this one is approaching Avid, but isn't really. I suppose if you count that it's dry embossing, we got the strips, we've got some coloring. It doesn't have any die cuts to it, but it definitely is going to be a nice complicated card. Now, one other thing I want to do to it that I cannot seem to find at the moment, because I've got some things going on, is I did, using the label die that came with it. So it will have a die, because I'm going to go ahead and place "I appreciate all the little things you do" popped up. Okay, so that's that one. And I will come back as I'm progressing through. I just don't want this to be a really long video for interest's sake. Now, I also I want to talk about this die cut, because I believe the intention of this is to pop out all these little dots, which I have not done yet, and then to poke up the little petals to give it that depth of a fluffy hydrangea ball of little flowers. Okay, so there's that, and I'm working on this part. I will possibly be doing something behind these little dots. Not sure what yet. Let's see if I have a piece of something. So that's where my mind is going. I'm just going to throw this behind the dots. So I like the shine, and I have the foil in the 3 colors, like peach, pink, and this sort of champagne-y white, silver, I mean. So we'll see what I end up doing with that, but I wanted to make you aware of the popping up 3D. Now, when this gets mailed, it of course won't have, it'll get flattened, but the recipient, if they want, can fluff it up. All right, so along with this one, this purple, which I haven't got a background or anything for, I am building something, and I'm going to share with you the last piece. So what I've done, I need a darker background here. I have created these little white supports, so to speak, and this one I have to work on because it shows. But I have the 3rd piece here. I cut it really rough because no one's going to see it. All it is a support for the next step that I will show you here in a minute. So see, these don't even go, this one almost covers, but I just need some material to be able to glue on the pieces I want to put on next that I will share with you. So I am going to show you this last piece, and I'm just using the multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm only putting it, I hope I don't get any on this Rococo Rose, which already has a hole in it, so I already cut a hole so that I can use it as a background on one of these projects if I want to. Alright, so I've got it wet, and then I'm going to carefully position this. And if I have to, I will trim a little bit off. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but there are so many frogs outside. It is February 1st, and the poor frog, it could freeze, it could snow. I don't know how often it snows here on the coast, but my goodness, are they noisy. You may even hear them. All right, so there's my support mechanism that I have created. I have to be really careful of this big leaf. All right, and here's why I created this. I cut two, a light and a dark. And my plan, should this work, this is the create part. Trying to think of fun, creative ways to be a little different. And I've done a few projects over the years like this. It's a little bit time consuming, but I thought, you know, it's only 3 leaves and 3 halves of leaves. Okay, so the trick is that I'm going to figure out where these go. So that one's going to go right there. Okay. I'm going to dab a little bit of glue. I mean, look, you can see these dabs are really, really, really light. That's all we need. And then I'm going to pop this in. And I'm going to do this to both of them. This is going to be a dark with light, and this will be a light with dark. So that's that fun project I'm working on. And then I want to show you another project. This one's pretty rough, so now we're getting more and more rough as we go. I really love the glimmer paper. This is 1/2 of it. The rainbow or ombre glimmer paper, so that, you know, it's when you get a full sheet of one color, I just think you get more bang for your buck by being able to use a variety of the different colors. So I'm going to show you. Let me put the lid on this though. There it is. All right, so I did some die cuts. You've seen the light and dark leaves, but notice this cutout here, and I will show you what this looks like. I then cut out pink. Remember, I wanted to do something with Rococo Rose. And then we have these purples, which I did 2 different colors, the pinky purple and then the kind of periwinkle color. And I'm not sure what I'm doing with this, but I like the idea of having these, a lot of them in the 2 different colors, randomly placed, and then a few of them going off and being cut off for just a more natural look. And then for this one, being purple, I have already stamped and will use some sort of twine. I will probably have to color the white perhaps to make it purple, and I have not decided a background yet for this guy. What I'm going to do is share with you a background that I am thinking of using on the Rococo Rose project. And then I will go away. It's actually very late tonight, so I will be working on this in the morning, which it is so late that it might be later morning. All right. So we have this vellum layer. And then let's just see. I know this is kind of boring and it's not solid. I probably need a solid. Not sure if you'll get the full effect of this. So some sort of background, something like this. I will say I have seen versions of this, so I will be working on changing it up a little bit. All right, so that's going to be another idea. And the final idea, or the creation that I'm working on, I have not done anything with this guy. Though you make me smile. I might finish this off a little more simply, but with the, I showed you the fatter border, and these will be going out probably as my Valentine cards when I'm done with them. I think I'm going to be finished with 4, and then I already have 3 from other videos that I've done that I'm going to use. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'll have 5. Okay, so now I want to show you another more. I have made more progress with this one. Oh, and all my flowers got dumped. but that's okay. So I really want Granny Apple Green, but I have to cut some more. So this is Pear Pizzazz. This is an interesting one because I'm humoring my husband. He does not like all white projects. And so I did this really pretty green leaf, and I'm going to have this with some of the pink. Don't those go nice? And I will be fluffing it like I showed you, with popping out all the little centers. And then these guys will also be nestled in, so hopefully it will be nice and fluffy. And yes, unfortunately for me, it will be squished in the mail. And then the sentiment will be probably, let's see which one I really like. This one, that's "The World is Better Because of You." So I thought this was very Valentine-esque, but not truly Valentine. And that concludes what I'm working on now. Like I said, I will pop in tomorrow, share any other neat ideas that are different, and I will then have the showcase at the end, and there will be 5 finished projects. This guy, I am thinking of doing some coloring. So the same coloring I've done here, I'm thinking of doing on this one, going a little bit more on the periwinkle side of things, and we'll see what I want to do to finish this one. I could trim it up a little bit more and do more with the layers behind it. All right, that's all I got. Stay tuned, and I will be back in a flash with the next steps for these 5 cards. All right, I woke up this morning and I got to work on the card front that I left out last night. I had said, this one I haven't got any ideas on. I think I'm going to color it. And then, of course, I slept on it, and this morning I came up with a different idea that I'm very excited to share. This card is the only one that's finished, by the way. And I think what I'm going to do is complete the 3 cards that I have the most progress on, and then I'm going to do a part 2 on Wednesday. This is Monday. So I'll get this processed and loaded, and then I'll do a Create With Me part 2 that finishes, I believe it's going to be 3 more actually, projects. So that'll make 6 cards. These will again be Valentine cards, and then I've got my paper pumpkin alternatives, and that should give me enough to send out, and I'll need to send them out by the end of the week, before the weekend. All right, so I had this sitting out, and I wanted to do something with it. I chose this die, and I was playing with this lavender or Highland Heather bit that I showed you, and I even think I showed you that I was considering fancying up the dots by putting something behind it. And I was thinking the silver to go with the silver and Misty Moonlight and white baker's twine. So as I was working on this, I then got going, and here is the completed card. And instead of the silver foil, I had sitting in my pile of goodies. Let's see if I have the remnant still hanging around. I do. This actually retired, this balmy blue glimmer paper. At least I don't see it on the website. So I had the piece, and I went ahead, and you could use foil. I think the foil behind would be just as nice. But because I had this last piece sitting around, I went ahead and put it behind, popped up a die cut, and with this I ended up deciding this does not need to be colored. And I think it came out fabulous. So on the other fronts, I'm still working on the small one that I colored. And I wanted to show you that I did find my little sentiment. So let's do another. I'll finish this off. I do plan to do a dry embossing texture And then I'm going to pop up the sentiment. I have my foil strips cut down to give it a little zip and pizzazz, and then I am going to do the vertical Misty Moonlight just like I had in the beginning. And then this is already trimmed down to show a little edge of white. I am grabbing a base. So this is also looking awesome. This one is not so much a Valentine, so I probably will not send this as a Valentine because it's not looking very Valentine-y, and the sentiment is more of a thank you. So the third one that I had talked about is all the pieces are cut. That's this one here. I had the pink foil, and I was thinking of the solid pink foil behind, but instead I've done something a little different that I still am not sure if it's going to work or not. So I went ahead and took the foil, and the foil is behind here. You can see it's sparkling. And then I will add these, I will leave the behind cuts of the flowers flat, and then I will pop the pink glimmer paper ones up. Then I've got my Granny Apple Green mat, full-size mat behind now picked out. And then here is what I'm hoping will work. I do have to figure out an attachment mechanism, and I might have to change the color. And that is, I wanted the Sending Love Your Way. That is a sentiment from this month's Paper Pumpkin, and I am considering how I can make that show up better. So I've got, this is a solid, and I wanted it to stop the foily floral from popping through and being too much floral. So that is working well. So on the other side, I'm going to try a different color. I don't want to do white because this card has no white, and I never do cards with no white, so this is a good challenge for me. So I might explore the Granny Apple Green on the pink, or black on the pink, depending on if I think this pink on pink is just not coming out well enough. And I think it is if you can keep the vellum flat. And the only way I know to do that, if you guys have ideas, feel free to pop them up on the YouTube comments. But I know if I take a sponge and I water down some glue, the multi-purpose glue, that I can go ahead and have the whole surface of the vellum be attached to the surface, and then the Sending Love Your Way will work. But the problem I have with that is that this is a dye ink, so it is going to tend to bleed. So that is my current challenge on this one, and as soon as I overcome this challenge and get this card finished, I will finish off the Periwinkle, I Appreciate All the Things You Do, and get these 3 posted, and then I can get started on the next 3 cards in a part 2, which will go live on Wednesday. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, especially suggestions for how to get this down on the solid without impeding the dye ink that I have there. Well, another possibility is to put 2 dots and a third one above, and then have the dots behind the dots be hide them with the decorative enamel dots. So any suggestions for that would be great. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.